We're here to talk about the EMA, the European Medicines Agency, and the MHRA, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency inspection programs. And we're going to talk particularly about planning and execution tips and techniques, how to get the best out of your particular inspection. So first of all, to set who I am and explain to you what I bring to this session. So my name is Paul Strickland. I'm an independent consultant, but I've worked for 23 years within clinical quality assurance, auditing clinical trials, facilitating inspections, preparing for inspections. So I've got a great deal of experience of actually handling the inspections themselves and working with the inspectorates. A couple of other points to bring out of the biography here is that I'm the chair of the Audit Working Party, which is a subgroup of the EFGCP, that's the European Forum for Good Clinical Practice. And the point of that is that that gives me a seat on the MHRA's stakeholder engagement meeting. And that means that once a year, and there's a session coming up later in March, once a year I get invited to a meeting of the MHRA with the stakeholders. And we talk about what the issues are that they've seen, what the issues are that are facing us as clinical researchers, and how regulation is being interpreted. So as we go through that kind of session, that's really important for me to be able to see what are the ways that the regulators are actually interpreting the regulations. And it's one thing to know the regulations, it's another to know how do the regulators interpret it. So that's going to be important for us. Similarly, I've been the course principal for the RQA GCP auditing course for almost 20 years now. And the benefit of that is that most of the sessions have an MHRA inspector to come and talk to us about what they're seeing and go through the findings. And so we get a bit of chance to chat one-to-one to an inspector there. So that really helps in giving me that up-to-the-minute impression of what the regulators are seeing and where they will actually apply enforcement discretion, where they might actually apply some regulations that we wouldn't expect them to apply, perhaps. Some things that are just appearing to be guidance, but they get applied as regulation. So today's web seminar, what we're going to talk about, as good QA people, we're going to start off by defining the terms. That's what we should always do before we start to talk about anything, is know what the terminology is we're going to use. We'll look at the two particular agencies that we're talking about here, the UK MHRA and the Europe-wide EMA, and talk about their responsibilities. We'll talk about the inspectors that they use and the standards that they apply and that they'll measure you against. And then we'll talk about preparation, and we'll talk about that in quite a lot of detail because preparation is so important. It is probably the thing that is going to make the most difference to the outcome of your work, with the exception of the get it right first time mentality. Inspection timelines, so you know what to expect when the inspectors do arrive. How long is the inspection going to take? How long will you have for particular elements of it, particularly reporting and feedback? We'll talk about the MHRA pre-inspection dossier as well. That's going to be interesting for you. If you get an MHRA inspection, they will ask for a lot of preparatory documentation, and I want to make sure that you are ready to give them that in advance. Again, it's all about that preparation. The difficulty being that this is a large dossier of information, and if you start only when you get the notification to put that in place, it will be a bit of a race to get it finished. We'll look at trial master files. One of the areas that is a very significant concern, lots of findings being written by the MHRA in particular for trial master files. They really do see quite a mess when they go and they look around. We'll look at serious breaches, which was a system introduced by the MHRA a few years ago, where they're looking at reporting to the agency the serious breaches of the protocol or of GCP. And we'll cover some common inspection questions. I'm not just going to leave you with what the questions are. We'll look at how you might possibly want to answer some of those questions. What may help you to shine in the most professional light possible? That's what my aim is for you, to help you be better prepared for the next regulatory inspection and all the future ones that you'll have. So in the learning objectives, you'll learn how to be inspection ready at all times. That's the only way to do it, because you never know when somebody is going to decide to inspect. Both EMA and MHRA will give you warning. The only ones that don't in Europe are the Portuguese. But you never know if you're going to get somebody phone you up to ask a question, to ask for some statistics, or something like that. You need to be prepared so that you're in a good position to give the message that your organization would want to give in the way they want to give it. So we'll look at those differences between EMA and MHRA inspections and what the significance of those differences might be. Again, with the tools that we'll talk about, those will help your organization to perform at its best and its most professional. We'll learn how to mitigate inspection findings so that by responding appropriately and in the right time, you can actually ease the impact of an inspection finding, or sometimes do away with it altogether. And we'll look at which records need to be made available for the inspections too. That'll be a crucial part of your preparation.